Hello, everybody. My name is Jeremy Katz, and it is my pleasure to be presenting to you all for Field Trip Friday. I am the Senior Director of Archives at the William Breman Jewish Heritage Museum, and today I'm going to be presenting to you all about what it is that an archivist does. So I always say that an archivist does three main things. We grow collections, we preserve collections, and we make those historic collections available to the public. So let's break these three things down. How do archivists grow collections? Well, there's a couple of different ways. The main way is through private donations. Either those are solicited or unsolicited. When you're first starting your archives, you need to gain some traction and some attention. So you may need to do some PR, some marketing to get the word out there that you are collecting. And so you're soliciting donations. Once you become well known enough, then people start to come to you unsolicited and bring you their historic items. On the right, you'll see some of our collections that span throughout the state of Georgia. We are the central repository for Jewish history in Georgia. Another way that we've received collection is through absorbing existing projects and collections. So, for example, you'll see Savannah. In 2015, the archives absorbed the Savannah Jewish Archives, and this documented 200 linear feet of records from Chatham County in Savannah, going back to the colonial period. Now, once you have these materials in your archives, it's very important for you to preserve them so that they last for generations. As soon as something is created, it starts to deteriorate. So these are things you can do in your own home with your historic materials, making sure that it's in an interior room away from pipes that may leak, under roofs that may leak, or in basements that may flood. You also want to make sure that the interior room will be ice insulated so that there's not rapid fluctuations in temperature and humidity. It's that cycling and fluctuations that cause materials to absorb moisture and then release moisture, which can cause metals to rust and papers to become brittle. You also want to make sure it's not receiving a lot of UV light. If you have light bulbs, you can filter them with UV filters. And same with windows, we'll make sure that you're drawing the shades or putting UV filters over the windows. And also just to reduce handling as much as possible. That's one of the major forms of deterioration. So if you can copy or scan that material and only handle that copy, you'll make sure that the original is preserved for years to come. Especially in the South, we've got to make sure that we're handling these materials. Here's an example of mold growth on the right. So what are some common forms of deterioration? This is my public service announcement. Make sure that you are not putting paper clips, scotch tape, laminating, rubber bands on anything that you want to preserve for an indefinite period of time. Metal fasteners rust, scotch tape and lamination bond to the fibers of the paper and are impossible to remove. So it's important that you're using stainless steel fasteners, using acid-free strips of paper to buffer between the fastener and the document you're trying to preserve. And also newspapers. Make sure that you're not putting newspapers directly up against anything that you want to preserve for an indefinite period of time. Newspapers are printed on very inexpensive paper that is very acidic. And that's what causes the newspaper to yellow over time and become brittle, is the acidity in that paper migrating throughout the document and causing that brittleness and discoloration. So what you want to do with your records, and this is what we do in the archives, once we've received it and preserved it, we also want to arrange and describe it. This is basically our way of increasing intellectual and physical control and decreasing the preservation concerns. So on the left, you see a collection that we received that was unprocessed. Basically, it looks like someone swept up a desk into a box. And what we do is we go through those materials with a fine-tooth comb and we organize them into nice, neat, acid-free folders and boxes and individually label those folders and put them into an inventory, which we call a finding aid. I'll show you an example here in just a minute. And then with photographs too, we want to make sure that we're sleeving those with mylar or polypropylene sleeves. The smell that you get when you open a new shower curtain, that is the petroleum in the plastic. You want to make sure that anything that you're putting in plastic does not have that smell. That is the smell of that plastic starting already to deteriorate because of that petroleum. So make sure any acid-free, petroleum-free plastic that you get has a neutral smell. Now, this is a question I get asked a lot about digital records. Because technology is constantly advancing, the standards are also constantly changing for digital records. But it's important to note that a lot of the same standards exist for digital records as physical records. You want to make sure that you're preserving them, and that you're arranging and describing them so you can easily access them. So some best practices to make sure that you're backing it up onto multiple formats and in multiple places. We don't know what types of file formats will be in existence in 10 to 20 years. So making sure you're backing up images in very common file formats. So for example, images should be backed up as JPEG or TIFF files. Documents should be backed up in PDF files. There's even a PDF version that's archival. It's called a PDF-A. And it doesn't even need any software to open it. It can open itself. And then making sure that you are arranging your files in a very easy to access way. So using a standardized naming scheme for your digital files. And then one other thing I suggest is looking into cloud storage to back up your files remotely off-site so that you can access it anywhere. I just highly recommend that you don't put any sensitive material into the cloud because security can be an issue. So what does this all look like in the end? I want to show you an example of what a finding aid looks like. This is what an end game of a collection looks like. So once you have your materials organized, you can put it together into and describe all the provenance information, the abstract, the date range, the creators, a biographical historical note, scope and content of what is in these papers. And then the collection inventory. So you have box 1, it has 12 folders. Box 2 has 17 folders. And what's so great about this finding aid is really the pie in the sky. Each one of these files is actually a hyperlink to a digitized record. So for example, we are interested in girls' high school from 1945. I can click in and actually see the individual documents that were within this file. And sure, this is certainly advanced, but these are things that you can do in your own home with your own documents, with a scanner, with arranging it into boxes and folders and describing it in a finding aid type of system. I hope you enjoy learning about what an archivist does, and stay tuned for more exciting virtual content from the Breman Museum.